I'm Danny Dyer, and this is the Real Football Factories. I played Tommy Johnson in the movie The Football Factories, which was all about football violence. But that was just acting. Now I'm on a journey around the country meeting the real firms who have mass offs at football matches for real. No fake blood, no stuntmen, no makeup. This time it's just me and the country's hardest hooligans. I meet the real top boys who tell you the score. Welcome to the Real Football Factories. In this show we're talking to football firms in the Midlands. We're going to be learning about some of the big issues surrounding these firms. We're going to examine the issue of race. Now, the Midlands is a multicultural area, but is that reflected in the firms? I mean, the stereotypical hooligan is a racist, but is that really the case in the Midlands?
All I ever wanted to be as a child was a football hooligan.
It was just a tour of excitement and entertainment for us.
We didn't go out to kill each other. It's a bit of fun. To me, it's always been a bit of fun.
The Midlands is a culturally rich and diverse region. Birmingham and Leicester are among the most ethnically mixed cities in the country, while elsewhere in the region, the home of the Industrial Revolution, a strong sense of community and identity is developed through generations of industrial hardship. The Midlands roughly stretches from the Stoke in the north to Stratford-upon-Avon in the south, and from Leicester in the east to Wolverhampton in the west. My journey is going to take me to all corners of the Midlands where I'm going to meet firms with feared reputations across the UK. My aim is to learn the inside story to these firms. I had a little rumour that your pal in the firm could give up heroin but couldn't give up being a hooligan, is that true?
Yeah, that is true.
And meet the real people, hear the real stories behind the screaming headlines proclaiming the latest hooligan outrage.
I would like to think that something very quick can happen along the lines of the Birch. Let's start walloping the bullies and getting rid of the bullies in our society.
Get down! The Midlands as an area is a kind of strange area because it falls into that void in many ways between London and between the north. There's industrial heritage, there's hardship, but similarly there's been huge immigration into the Midlands, and if you actually look at the successes in terms of racial integration, Birmingham is held up as a cultural melting pot, and it very much is. And I think that the history of Birmingham City Football Club is absolutely totally linked to that.
So Birmingham is where I start my journey, a city that suffered from racial tension in the 70s.
This country, in 15 or 20 years' time, the black man will have the whip hand over the white man.
Racial tension in the 70s in Birmingham was standard. You had politicians like Enoch Powell doing speeches on the rivers of blood, and then you had groups like the National Front who were always marching and saying, you know, get them out of the country, they're robbing our jobs.
2, 4, 6, 8! We don't want to integrate!
This is Rob Goulding. Reports are coming in of a bomb attack in the centre of Birmingham.
The Irish in the city were also targets for racial abuse. After IRA bombs killed 19 people in 1974. These oppressed groups formed an unlikely alliance.
Black and Irish felt a camaraderie together with each other. Also with other white people who knew the culture of these two different people.
They originally came together in a firm called Apex, which evolved into the infamous Zulu Warriors at the start of the 80s.
Police say the gang, the Zulu Warriors, often armed with clubs and knives, have been responsible for a reign of terror for the last 3 years.
The Zulus as a gang are noticeable. They really are noticeable for the fact that they are a mixed-race football hooligan gang. And while you do get black lads in other hooligan firms, you don't tend to find the same mix.
After the break, I'm going to meet the Zulus myself, and being a Cockney on foreign ground, this could prove interesting. My journey through the Midlands firm starts in the country's second city, In 1982, the Zulu Warriors, Birmingham City's infamous mixed-race hooligan gang, was formed. Fans chanted the word Zulu at a Man City away game, and the firm was born. Like the African warriors in the Michael Caine film, the Birmingham Zulus took no prisoners, and their war cry sent a chill down the spine of opposing firms, as I'm about to find out.
Let's have it.
Now I know how Michael Caine felt.
The top boys agreed to talk to us if we protect his identity.
I think it's the most famous chant down the football. If you're walking on a Tuesday night or whatever night it is, there's 400 lads and they chant the name Zulu. It's fucking very intimidating.
What it gave to us was, it's a camaraderie thing. These are my brothers. If I'm walking up the road, I look to my left and my right, he's a good lad, he's a good lad. Behind me, he's a good lad, he's a good lad. They're all from different areas of Birmingham. If something happens and it's really, really, really on top, these people will back me up.
It's called the Zulu line. It don't matter if there's a fucking 100 of you or 10 of you. Once you make that line, once the line's made, fucking I've never seen it broken many a times, you know what I mean?
Have you ever gone for a fight and you've seen 200 black people combined with white people frowning at you with veins in their neck and their eyes are popping out their head with spit coming out their mouths? It's a different kettle of fish because most people are not used to seeing that many people coming to fight you, especially when they're black and white.
The Zulus reflected a fusion of black and white culture at a street level in Birmingham.
How important was the music scene for the Zulus?
The bands that were coming through in the late 70s, you know, bands like the Specials, the Beat, UB40, they brought a lot of camaraderie together between black and white.
And you could fight to that fucking music. Yeah. It was fantastic for having the battles in a fucking disco.
In the early 80s, young Zulus were being inspired by the hip-hop movement growing in New York at the time, called the Zulu Nation.
One track that did it, Zulu Nation, was Africa Bambata, the Soul Sonic Force, and the track was called Planet Rock. Planet Rock! It's very easy to change your dance moves to martial arts. So a lot of the guys who came from the dance scene were good fighters. Just as the Zulu Nation would do, we went with all our colours on, with all the clothes, but we also brought our favourite music. So we brought a ghetto blaster. It was like a carnival day for us. We were just having a laugh. We were walking around the shopping centre, you know, with this big stereo playing reggae music, you know, 400-handed, and everyone was like, who the bloody hell are these lot? And we were walking around, scarves up round our necks and everything.
At the core of the Zulus was terrifying warrior-like aggression.
When you see hundreds of people running towards you, your legs shake, your mouth goes dry, you look at your friends, you look for a space in the road, you find your space, you start to jump, you try to shake the shakiness out of your legs, you get your position and you're ready and you look at your mates, this is it, and you're waiting for it to land. A bit like Braveheart, when the English are come, hold, 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 yeah!
You'd wake up in the morning before a big game at 6:30 in the morning to get yourself ready, tingling.
I get up, do my stretching, put my legs up and think, I want to kick some fucking ass today and go home.
When Leeds travelled to Birmingham for the last game of the season in 1985, it sparked some of the worst football violence ever seen in Britain. More than 1,000 hooligans were involved at the height of battle.
Leeds were proper racing. Every time we went to Leeds, you heard like Vic hailing. And that's why you got a lot of lads that weren't even into football, black lads that were just like lads on the town that used to firm up because Leeds were coming to town. Blues fans reacted in a way that I've never seen them react ever. They just completely invaded the pitch. About 1,000, all the Leeds jumped back in their end, and now you just watched in amazement about what was going on. And that went on till about 6 o'clock on the evening.
Have you ever seen, like, Saving Private Ryan or Platoon? Combine them without the bullets and you've got Blues Leeds. It wasn't just going in one area, it was going all over the place. It was absolutely crazy.
The St Andrews ground was more like a battlefield than a soccer pitch on Saturday as football fans waged war on the police. 125 were arrested, while nearly 200, including 96 policemen, were injured.
Tragically, a 15-year-old Leeds fan died after a wall collapsed on him at the ground. In the mid-80s, hooliganism was at its height and at its most shocking. The Junior Zulus continue the reputation of the firm today. The explosion of gang culture in Birmingham means there may not be the same numbers of black hooligans in the Zulu firm, but the principles of togetherness still apply.
The Zulu is one, a whole, right? That means older lads.
It's no black
20, 30 years ago.
No, it's all together.
Yeah, we are one.
What colour, what...